Now we're going to turn our attention here on the Triple Crown Tracker on It's Official to a new wager. It's the Preakness Future Bet. There's going to be 2 pools this year. It was new in 2023. That was run the week leading into the Kentucky Derby and up to post time for the Derby. The new twist this year, you can bet it this coming week. Starting Thursday, the Preakness Future Wager pool number 1 debuts. We'll have a second pool coming up that week right before the Kentucky Derby that ends just prior to post time for the Run for the Roses. Once again, 40 wagering interest offered for the Preakness Future Wager beginning Thursday at noon, an 18% takeout on win bets only. And of the 40 wagering interest, there are 39 individuals and 1 for the All Others category. Now, the All Others last year, click, National Treasure was not one of the 39 wagering interests, and that was when the pool was offered a week before. So if you're interested in those All Other Futures wagers again, you'll get that opportunity this weekend. But what makes this wager interesting, Jeff, is the fact that the Bob Baffert horses are able to be wagered upon. They're not eligible for the Kentucky Derby. They haven't been included in the Kentucky Derby Future Wager unless you just did the all other denomination, hoping that the courts would put Bob Baffert back into the Run for the Roses. So when you bet the Preakness Stakes this far out, you've got to consider Baffert. He's won the race more than anybody else. He's going to have fresh horses into the race, and he's got some real heavyweights to consider.
I kind of wish they had an exact preview of Future Wager, because I think Bob's got a chance to run 1-2, not only based on the form, which is pretty apparent, but the way these 2 horses have been breezing. Just last weekend, I mean, I watched these 2 breeze, and I as good as some of these other 3-year-olds that are actually going to be running in the Kentucky Derby, I don't think any of them can match Nisos. Here's Nisos working 5/8 in a minute 5th. He's such a great athlete. He's such a smooth, easy mover. He changes leads. You need slow motion to even see it. And he barely lifts his feet off the ground. This is the kind of action that allows a horse to not only run fast, but run far. And he's just kind of coasting here. This is not even taking a deep breath. Obviously, his form is outstanding. He's won all 3 of his starts by a total of more than 25 lengths. His numbers are spectacular. He's just ticking over and waiting for a cue from his trainer to get into a van or race or whatever. And what's next for me, boss? Because I'm ready to go right now. I don't know whether he's going to run Saturday or not. I haven't heard any quotes or read any quotes from what Bob's planning on doing with Nisos, whether he runs them in the San Felipe or waits or I don't know. But we'll find out soon enough. But I mean, if the goal, the real goal for Nisos is the Preakness, which it is, I wouldn't want to be trying to bet against him unless it's his stablemate, who's just as impressive almost in the morning.
Nisos, the 4-1 morning line favorite for the Preakness Future Wager amongst the individual entrants. In fact, that's even a lower price than the All Others denomination. You're talking the other Baffert in this case, and it could very well be May Moon. Not long ago, Jeff, people thought maybe that was Muth as the second best horse in the barn for Bob Baffert amongst the 3-year-olds. Of course, Muth was last year's Breeders' Cup juvenile runner-up. He came back and won the San Vicente in his first start of the year. Here he is matched with the one-time starter May Moon, but that one start was a fantastic one when he ran off and won so easily. Let's talk about these 2 working just a few days ago at Santa Anita, courtesy XBTV.
Well, I imagine that my Moon's quicker than Muth, so you put him in front, you don't ask him to do much, and you have Muth come and get him, and that's better than breaking them off together because then my Moon would open up on him. So into the stretch, here is Muth on the outside. He's supposed to come get him. The jock on the leader, Maymoon's waiting for him. He says, come on. And Muth can't make any impression at all. And the jock finally says on my Moon, well, I don't want to mess up my work. So I'm going to let him, continue. I'll go out to the 7/8 pole. And you can see the difference here. I mean, right now, May Moon, to me, has clearly surpassed Muth in the pecking order in Bob's, order of 3-year-olds. He won his first start. May Moon did so impressively. He won that race by almost 7. Came back and won a non-winners of 2. Blew the clubhouse turn and still won that race. So, I mean, he's a good horse. And this worked, Jeremy. He didn't make any mistakes at all. I mean, he's learning. Mentally, he is figuring things out.
Yeah.
The ability for this colt by Frosted is there. And, again, I don't think he's going to run against Nisos until the Preakness. The question of which path each horse is going to take.
Right.
Oh,
I
no.
misspoke and said just the one-time start. He's had the two, as you mentioned, and he got that two-turn race. So he stretched out to a mile, and he had to work harder in that race than you thought, maybe winning by a neck at 30 cents on the dollar. But the way he's come out of it and the way he worked, this is a blossoming 3-year-old. When you see that, May Moon looked absolutely fabulous in the morning. He's one of 4 Bob Baffert trainees in the Preakness Future Wager. We talked about Muth, who was also in that workout. He's part of the Future Wager, as well as Coach Prime, a horse they thought a lot of towards the winter, in the early part of the winter. So 4 Bob Baffert trainees amongst the horses for the Preakness Future Wager. Now, we're talking about horses to win the Preakness at this time of year. We're into the last couple of days of February, into the first days of March. What kind of horse do you want to win the Preakness Stakes? Now, one thing we know is kind of looking at the history of the race, Todd Pletcher doesn't support it very often unless he's got the Kentucky Derby winners. So if you're going to look at the Todd Pletcher horses, they're probably not great bets. They're going to be underlays here because maybe you really like Fierceness. Maybe you're a big fan of Locked. But unless they win the Kentucky Derby, they're not running in the Preakness based on history, the way Pletcher campaigns his horses. The other thing is the Japanese horses. They took a pass on Pimlico here for the most part in recent years, and they go, Derby and then Belmont with more time in between races. I'd be averse to taking any of the Japanese horses for a Preakness Future Wager. I want to focus on trainers who focus on that race. Steve Asmussen almost always has a horse in the Preakness. Brad Cox in recent years almost always has a horse. We talked about Baffert. That's an obvious one in that respect. I think you want to focus on those kind, and maybe still even that all others bet. While everybody thinks we're kind of focused in now for Derby horses, all others last year with National Treasure was a nice payoff, in the Preakness paid more than $30. So I would be afraid to still play at the all others level at this point, Jeff.
You could. If I were to tell you that I expect one of the 2 Bafferts to win the Preakness, that still doesn't necessarily make it a great bet. They have to get there. They have to actually run the race. And I'm thinking that both will have maybe 1 or at the most 2, but I'm looking at them. I'm looking at their form. I'm looking at Baffert winning last year's Preakness with a horse that, quite frankly, I think is inferior to either one of these 2, although he's still a pretty good horse. But I don't know what the price is going to be. I mean, these are morning lines. 4-1 on the favorite, I think, is not a lot of value, but maybe it will be on Preakness Day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you are planning on wagering on a horse that's going to run in the Kentucky Derby, and you expect him to run in the Kentucky Derby, like a Sierra Leone or one of those, and he doesn't win the Kentucky Derby, he's probably not running in the Preakness. So now you have to take that in consideration. So in that sense, maybe you're looking for a fresh face, a horse that maybe is not quite up to there, and you're going to get 40, 50, 60 to 1. I don't know who that might be because I'm so impressed with the Bafferts, but there's a few in here that maybe you could take a case for. Conquest Warrior is an intriguing horse to me. I don't know where he's at quite yet for sure. I think he could be a special horse, but he's only got a win. So we'll see what he does in his prep. And on the one hand, if he wins his prep, he's going to the Derby. And if he doesn't win, maybe he's not even up to the Preakness. I don't know. It's a tough bet. But one, if you're willing to just bite the bullet and go with one of the or both of the Bafferts, maybe that's an option you want to take.
I'll give you 2 price horses, and the reason why they fit the same category. 2 horses I thought were really talented, but they had setbacks, not major setbacks, but physical setbacks early in the campaign, that being Sneed and Knightsbridge. They're both back working now, but they're only like 1-2 works back into their cycle. You're going to need 4 or 5 works until you're ready for a race. So they may be up against it and trying to make one of the big preps here in April to still get 3-4 more works in, but maybe the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland, second week of the meet, and then on to the Preakness Stakes. So I think horses like Knightsbridge and Sneed are horses that could be very well be live new shooters for the Preakness because they lost 2, 3, 4 weeks of training here during the course of the winter due to some physical setbacks. So maybe by then they're the kind of horses that are cycling back up to horses that could be legitimate Preakness players. Final reminder, the Preakness Future Wager again opens on Thursday at noon. It closes at 8 p.m. on Saturday night. Saturday, not like the Sunday Derby Future Wager closings. This is a Saturday night closing, 8 o'clock Eastern time. The Preakness Future Wager will close this Saturday, offered pool number 1, and then we'll have pool number 2 coming up April 20th.